Okay, boys and girls, this is less than 6.2 fraction decimals percents. So for the first part, it says express each fraction as a percent. So let's do two of these. So let's do number one. So number one is 4/5, and we want to express it as a percent, this fraction. So what you do is, and there's several ways to do this, but one of the easiest ways is to just go ahead and multiply it by 100%. So if we times it by 100%, and it's really 100 over 1, what you would do is we could look at this and we could simplify right away right here. So it's 1, that'll be 20. So 4 times 20 is 80. So the answer is 80%. There's another way to do it, and the other way, and we talked about this in class, is if you have 4/5, you want to make it equal 100, and we know we can do that because you multiply by 20, because every percent, let me go back, every percent is out of 100. So you multiply the 5 by 20, 4 by 20, you get 80 over 100, and you already know 80 over 100 is 80%. Okay, so let's look at a mixed number. So we'll look at number 5. So number 5 is 3 7/10. So let's do the first way that we talked about. So the first way is to make this into an improper fraction. So it's 3 times 10 plus 7, so it's 37 over 10, and we want to multiply that by 100%. So when I do that, I can simplify right here. So it's 370%, because 37 times 10, and then you have 1 times 1. So 37 times 10 is 370, so 370%. The other way to do it, it was, oops, let me go back, sorry. So 3 7/10. I already know that 3 is a whole number, so it's going to be 3 decimal point, and 7/10 is 0.7. So I make it into a decimal. So when we make a decimal into a percent, we know we move the decimal over to the right 2 times, because you're technically multiplying by 100. So 1, 2, we put the decimal there, fill it in with the 0, so it's 370, so 370%. Okay, so that's how you do the first part. The second part, let me just move this up, express each decimal as a percent. Okay, so this is fairly easy. All you need to do is, and let's do a couple of these. So you have 800s there. So 800s looks like this. You move the decimal always to the right when you're making a percent, and we move it over 2 places. 1, 2, the decimal there, so you have 8, so it's 8%. You could also just multiply it by 100, and you would get the same answer. So that's the other way to do it. So you could just take 0.08 times it by 100%, and it's going to be the same thing because you move it over 2 places. Okay, so that's another way. There's actually one more way. The other way is to just put it over 100, and it's 800ths, so that's 8%. Okay, so next, let's do another one. Let's do number 12. So it's 3 5/10. So again, I'm just going to move over 2 places. So 3.5, 1, 2. So it's 350% would be your answer. Those are fairly easy. Okay, so the next part that we're going to talk about is express each percent as a fraction in simplest form. Okay, so there's really 2 different ones here. One's with decimals, and then there's also ones with just fractions. So let's do the ones with decimals. I'm going to show you one with the decimal, and then you could do the other one. So number 13 is 8.25%. So 8.25%, and we need to make this into a fraction. So what we do is you put the whole thing over 100. Leave it as a decimal. And then what you're going to do then is you're going to multiply the numerator and denominator by a number so we can get rid of this decimal. That means we're going to move it to the right. Well, what do you do to move it to the right? You're going to move it 2 places. So 1, 2. So what we need to do is we need to multiply by 100, and that will get rid of our decimal. But whatever we do to the numerator, we must do to the denominator. So what you're going to really do is multiply numerator and denominator by 100. The reason why, again, is you want to get rid of this decimal. The way to get rid of it is you want to move it to the right two places. So when you do that, you get 825. Let me move this up, make sure we can see it. You have 825 over 100 times 100. So we write 100 and add 2 zeros here because you're times them by 100. So it's going to be 825 over 10,000. However, I'm not going to do it. You're going to need to show how you simplify that. You can start with 5 and see where you get from there. So you need to simplify that. Okay, so with decimals again, so for number 14, you have 30.5. We want to multiply numerator and denominator. It's going to be 30.5 over 100 times it by 10 because you want to get that decimal over to the right one. So let's look at, though, a fraction. So 15 is 33 and 1/3. So when we have 33 and 1/3 percent, and you want to make that into a fraction, here's how you do it. So we have 33 and 1/3. You want to make, first of all, that into a improper fraction. So 33 times 3 is 99 plus 1 is 100 over 3. Well, what we need to do then is we're going to do the opposite. So we need to divide because now we have a percent. This is still a percent. We need to divide by 100. Let me just get a new page. So we have 100 over 3 divided by 100 over 1, which you know is 100 over 3 times 1 over 100. And then what I'm going to do is simplify. So the answer is going to be 1/3. So the answer to that question is going to be 1/3. So 33 and 1/3, excuse me, percent. The answer is 1/3. So really all you need to do is with 16, 17, and 18 here is to make them into improper fractions and then just divide by 100. Okay, the bottom. Express each fraction as a percent. Round each one to the nearest whole number. Okay, so I'm going to do one with you. So number 19 is 108 over 250. And we're going to make this into a percent, so we're going to times it by 100%. Now, if you notice, we can reduce or simplify right there. And then, because you could take off the zeros, you have 10 and 25, we divide by 5, so you get 2 and 5. So, oops, write that a little near. So now I have 108 times 2 divided by 5. So let's do 108 times 2 first. So it's 216 over 5. Now what you need to do is say, well, how many 5s go into 216? Let me just move that up. So I have 216 over 5. How many 5s go into 216? So that's going to be 43. And what's left over is 1 over 5. And that's going to be 43 and 1/5%. And you can leave it as a fraction, and that would be fine too. There's another way to do this, and the other way is to take, let me go back up, 108 and 250 and set it up in long division. So you have 108, oops, marker, 108 over 250, which we know that it means 108 divided by 250. So I like to write it out like this. And then I can easily see that 250 goes on the outside, 108 goes on the inside, put a decimal there, bring it straight up, and then add some zeros and then go ahead and do the long division. You're going to get the same answer, however, your answer is going to be in a decimal and not a fraction, and that's fine too. On the back, let's see, make sure I can find the page, is the word problems. And all you need to do is really read this carefully. I'm going to go over just one of them with you. I think you could do the rest. The first one says there's 2.85 kilograms of sugar mixed with 3.15 kilograms of flour. What percent of mixture is sugar? Okay, so sugar is 2.85 or 2 and 85 hundredths over. So we want to figure out the total mixture. So you would have to add 3.15 and 2.85, and so that would be 6. So what you need to do then is make this into a percent. So all you need to do is, first of all, is get rid of that decimal. So what you want to do is times it by, there's 2 spots, 100 over 100. And when you do that, you're going to get 285 over 600. And when you get 285 over 600, you just times that then by 100%. Oops. So we get 285 over 6, and you figure out how many 6's go into 285, and that will give you your answer as a percent.